to the top, got a filled up engine. In my thoughts, obsession, I will not stop, no, I'm never second guessing. Got a God complex, haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test. Tear it up like I'm Jason. I see the world like it's ready for the taking. I see this place like a game I'm playing. Straight to the bank to collect my payments. No negotiations, it's my way, I was born impatient. And like a damn Freemason, I'll run this nation.
Call me a gun. Call me a gun. Call me a gun. Call me a gun.
I don't know how to stop, I just go till I drop. Whether it's working or shots, give it all that I got. You can watch me work in my
YouTube family, what's good with you? It's your boy 2A in LA, and as always, fam, anything I say in this episode, prior episodes, and future episodes is just my personal opinion. Don't take it as fact. Don't take it as law. Always do your own homework and come up with your own conclusions. Right about now, fam, I should go ahead and tap that like button for your boy. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. Come on in. You can join the congregation by smashing that subscribe button and requesting all post notifications. And if you are an existing supporter of this channel, fam, I appreciate you more than you can possibly imagine. You are the reason this channel is anything. All right, fam, let's get this episode rolling. So look, fam, I have been talking about my most recent acquisition from Infinity, the Infinity ICONIC. This gun is amazing. Amazing. Of course, I have an outfit with the Acro P2. Now, a lot of people will say because this is a competition style pistol, race gun style pistol, that I should probably utilize a more competition versus tactical optic on the gun. You know, I'm not competing with this gun. For me, this is going to be an occasional shooter. It's going to be a safe queen. It's a collector's piece. So aesthetically, I love the way the dot looks. I also have a lot of experience with the P2. I have zero problems being able to pick up the dot. I'm not using this gun for competition purposes. So for me, it's perfectly fine. Aside from that, I just think the gun is stunning. Of course, it is ported. Let me see if you can pick that up. Ported and compensated. It's chambered in 9mm. I think the aesthetics of the gun are amazing. They're what you would expect from Infinity. It has that island barrel on it. Let me let you see that there. Look, fam, the gun is it's stunning, right? But I mean, again, aesthetics is one thing, how it shoots is another. So why don't we dive into the review? All right, fam, if you've never seen a 2A in LA review, very simple. 0 worst possible gun in the history of the world. 100 best possible gun in the history of the world. Also an affordable price. I've never had a 0. I've never had 100, but one can always hold out hope. If you got a gun that's like 50 and 60, that's kind of right down the middle. That gun is going to go bang every time. It's going to be reliable. It's going to be accurate. It's just lacking any real feels or thrill. Think Glock 17 Gen 5 MOS, for example. If you've got something from 60 to 70, okay, that gun has a feature or two that kind of distinguish itself from the middle of the road guns. If you've got something 70 to 80, okay, you've got a gun that's somewhat feature rich and that definitely distinguishes itself in terms of build quality. If you got something kind of 80 to 90, now you're cooking with gas. Now you have a gun that is not just feature rich, but it is or is approaching kind of best in class territory, particularly if it's like 85 to 89, and if you've got something 90 or above, grill gun status. All right, fam, first up, fit and finish. Look, fam, Infinity does what Infinity does. What's kind of startling about this gun, in my opinion, and I'll put the specs up there so you guys can have a look at it, is the gun is surprisingly lightweight for a full-size gun of this size with the extended comp and everything. You would think the gun weighs a lot more than it does. I'll put up the overall weight of the gun up there so you guys have that. But it's primarily because you have an aluminum grip and aluminum frame. A lot of times you'll see on competition pistols like this, it'll be an all steel gun, which obviously adds a lot of weight to it. You got a titanium comp on it. Look, Infinity just does a really good job. Now, I'll say, if I said this about Infinity, when I look at the best of the best of the best of the best kind of gun manufacturers out there, which I include Infinity as one, along with the likes of Venom and Rafferty and Hayes, I often say that Rafferty, Hayes, and Venom, when you get them in your hands, they are so well grooved. It's not just a matter of how they're sprung, but they're machined so well. They're so buttery smooth that you can tell a lot of time was spent really working that gun to get it to be at that level. Infinities have a different feel. They're a little, when you first get them, a little bit more grittier feeling, a little less smooth, although I'll say this, the Iconic is not too shabby. Of course, I've got, you know, about 1,000 rounds through it at this point, so it's a lot looser than it would normally be, just like kind of right out of the box. But the fitment on the gun is amazing. Slide to frame fit is airtight. Obviously, no hot spots around the gun anywhere. The back strap is incredibly smooth. Like I said, the attention to detail, the fitment, the fit and finish is always really well done. Barrel fitment, locked in. Grip to frame fitment, amazing. So look, Infinity does what Infinity does. When it comes to fit and finish, this gun gets a 15 out of a possible 15. All right, fam, next up, reliability. Had 1,000 rounds through this gun. Also, something that is indicative of Infinity is usually there is a break-in period. I think there's probably, if I had to say, like probably around a 500 round break-in period. But what's funny is kind of 500 rounds before everything works out. But what's funny is once I put, I'm going to say about, let's say 2 to 4 mags through the gun, all of a sudden the grit kind of goes away. Any kind of issues in terms of cycling kind of goes away. It works itself in, I guess is what I'm trying to say, very, very quickly. And even from the first shot, it is so flat and so smooth. Yeah. And then after you kind of get past that first 2 to 4 mags, zero problems with the gun. No stovepipes, no failure to feeds, no nada. And that's been my experience. I own 3 Infinities now, and that's been my experience almost with every one. Like, once you get past those first couple of mags or so, these guns just run. Reliability, 15 out of a possible 15. Next up, durability. So, look, it's Infinity. Look, aluminum frame. Most of the guns that I have are kind of steel frame pistols, so take that into account. Titanium comp on it. That said, it's just so well done. Infinity just chef's kiss in terms of the materials and the build quality. If you take care of this gun, it is going to take care of you. PVD coatings on the slide and the mag well, DLC elsewhere. Look, they use great materials, great coatings. We're gonna give it for durability, 15 out of a possible 15. All right, fam, next up, trigger. Now, you guys know I am probably the biggest trigger snob on the internet. And I have said for years before I had my first Infinity, I said nobody beats an Atlas trigger. That trigger is just so clean, so smooth that it's different. It sets itself apart in a world where there are a lot of great triggers out there. I always felt like Atlas was just a step above the rest, and then I tried my first Infinity, and man, oh man, I was like, there is a trigger that is actually better than the Atlas trigger. Look, I'll put it up there. I'll put the trigger weight up there so you can see that, but you can see there is very little take up, clear defined wall. Oh, look at the reset. Fam, there is something about an Infinity. I don't know what they do, but their triggers are insane. If I had to guess just off the top of my head, that's definitely a sub 2 pound trigger pull. Again, I'll put the trigger weight up there if I haven't already, but trigger Infinity is just different. I always give Atlas triggers 15 out of 15 because that's just how good they are. But whenever I get an Infinity in my hand, I got elevated 16 out of a possible 15 for trigger. I said it, 16 out of a possible 15 for trigger on the Infinity ICONIC. All right, fam, next up, accuracy. Look, the thing about these hybrid pistols that are comped and ported, and I don't want to make it seem like all hybrid pistols are the same, because they are not. They are not. I've seen people get like compensated guns, have third party people come and port them, and you know, there's very little science, in my opinion, oftentimes that is built into that. And a lot of these people don't have the experience of porting guns and compensating guns for decades like Infinity does. And so, but when it's done right, when you have a pistol that is ported and compensated right, there's a difference. Now you add to that the lightweight of this gun, how easy it is to control, how flat it is, and then you add this Infinity trigger, fam. Accuracy is just on a different level. Normally we give a 10 out of a possible 10 when the gun is incredibly accurate. This one, I got to go a step beyond, 11 out of a possible 10 for accuracy. Facts. Next up, ergonomics. Look, fam, I love the grip on all of my Infinities. I love the way they feel in the hand. This is not a cheese grater kind of grip though. It's not like an Atlas aggressive grip. It has a more smooth feel to it, but textured, aesthetically beautiful, and textured just enough. I love the ergonomics of the gun, how, again, just the shootability of it and all that go into it. Ergonomics, we're going to give this a 10 out of a possible 10. All right, fam, these next two categories, as we often do, we're going to lump together. Aftermarket support, maintenance, and upkeep. Look, at some point, I'm going to have to give 2011's 5 out of 5s for aftermarket support. I'm not quite there yet because when I think of aftermarket support, while there is a ton for 2011s now. First of all, everybody and their mamas, grandmamas, nieces, nephews, cousin makes a 2011. And so aftermarket support for the 2011 is grown by leaps and bounds. Every day there's some new 2011 that drops and some new third-party provider that create something for it. But I'm still going to give it, for right now, because it still hasn't even got to Glock level, I'm still going to give it a 4 out of a possible 5. Maintenance and upkeep, 100%. This is a Ferrari. It is not a pickup truck. You got to keep it clean. You know, every 1,000 rounds or so, break it down, get it done, or do like a light clean, which I like to do after every shoot, and you will be fine. The gun is going to run. So aftermarket support, 4 out of 5. Maintenance and upkeep, 4 out of 5. All right, fam. Next up, affordability. So a lot of people ask me, like, what are the measurements for affordability? And so I thought I'd give those to you now. If a gun is over 10,000, that's just crazy expensive. So you're gonna get a 0 out of a possible 5 points for a gun if it's over 10K. If it's kind of 8 to 10K, that's still ridiculously crazy. Most people are never gonna spend that on a gun, either because they don't have the ability to, or because it just is not a prudent financial decision, right? So you're only gonna get a 1 out of a possible 5 there. If a gun is kind of 6 to 8,000, then you'll get 2 points. Because again, still ridiculously high, right? If a gun is kind of 4 to 6, then you'll get a 3. Again, a gun's still crazy expensive, but just a little bit coming down to where it starts to become more reasonable. If a gun is like 2 to 4, okay, that's your like MPAs of the world, that's your staccatos of the world. Okay, those guns are still expensive, but I'll give you some grace there, 4 out of 5. And then if it's less than 2,000, I think even though a $1,500 gun is still very, 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 very expensive, I think 2,000 and less is in most people's grasp with saving and layaway and other things to put themselves in a position to acquire the gun. So this gun MSRPs for $9,500 and including the optics, so just below 10,000. And so again, it's going to get a 1 out of a possible 5 for affordability. Next up, flex. Is Instagram gonna go crazy, or your boy's gonna be like, damn? Is everybody on Reddit gonna be jealous? Yes, 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 100%. Now, normally I give 5 out of 5 for flex. When it comes to Infinity, with the styling and detail that they get, they almost always go over that amount. But in this particular case, the rarity of the ICONIC, you just don't see very many of them out there in the wild. I gotta step up flex points to another level. Flex points for the Infinity ICONIC, 7 out of a possible 5. I said it, 7 out of a possible 5. This gun is ridiculously flexy. All right, fam, if you add all that up for the Infinity ICONIC, this gun gets a whopping 98 out of a possible 100 points to become the highest scoring gun in the history of the channel. Previous to this, Infinity broke the record with a Viscount, which was at a 97. One of the things I also do is I go back from time to time and I will update scores depending on additional data that I had or shifts in the marketplace. So the Rafferty Lucky Devil, which I have said many, many times is the best shooting pistol in my collection, I updated that gun. Originally it was a 96. I updated flex points, just the rarity of that gun combined with everything else. So that one scored a 97. The Infinity Viscount and the Rafferty Lucky Devil both have 97s. The ICONIC comes in at a 98. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, because it scored a 98, it's obviously a better gun than the Rafferty Lucky Devil. I would tell you, slow your roll, because the Rafferty, there is only a 1 point difference. The Rafferty Lucky Devil is priced significantly over $10,000, and so it got 0 points for affordability, where this got 1. So for all intents and purposes, these two guns, the Infinity and the Rafferty Lucky Devil, both scored exactly the same. And so look, fam, you know when that happens, you have two guns, hybrid guns, comped and ported. You know we got to do a head-to-head, right? You know we do. Stop playing. We gotta do a head-to-head. So we're gonna get these two bad boys out to the range and we're gonna make it do what it do. All right, fam, that's it for this episode. Until next time, as always, take care of one another and peace.